Good morning. Welcome to Equity Story Trade Watch video. Fresh new week. Unfortunately, I'm on my own, so you have to put up with me this week. Dave is on holidays. I think there's a holiday in Victoria and New South Wales. So really should be fairly quiet, but there is still market that's we need to talk about because the market's still open. Before we go on to anything else, have a look at the Equity Story disclaimer, which is just there for you to know that, of course, everything we talk about is purely based on looking at stories or stocks, and we're looking at the technicals and fundamentals of those stories. All right, so the question is, what are we looking at today? How is the week going to start off with? And really, for me, status quo. We've got a war going on in Ukraine and Russia. Nothing's really changed over the weekend. We had a pretty poor end to last week on the US market. However, we've had some green screens today with some, I suppose, stocks that are going up, which we'll talk about in a second. I'm having looking also at the commodities, and I apologize for not being able to switch from some screens to the others. I'm actually using a new system today because Zoom is down and out today. So please be patient with me. But anyway, we're looking at the moment with the hot stock, right? So let's start with the hot stock. We'll look at the Einsteins. We've got AKE, which of course looks pretty good chart wise. Last week we had a little bit of a return to favor in the lithium stocks, so that looks pretty good for this week. Let's see how that pans out. And of course, I am quickly probably going to go through some of these buy signals and Einstein trends just to see if there's anything that I really like out of that. And when you look at the market itself, remember, we've got a pretty volatile time at the moment. So really, it's not easy to trade in the first place. And you've got to, I suppose, be on top of things. Otherwise, you might get yourself into trouble. So I'm just looking at XJO from the Einsteins, what Dave's put on Sunday. And you can see that the market's really not doing much. It's actually below trends. This is the XJL we're looking at. So I'm not expecting any miracles this week, especially with the war still going on. I still think it's going to be a fairly tough week to come. And I'm expecting just more volatility, really. So we'll see how that sort of pans out. You just never know what the dynamics might happen this week with the Ukraine, Russia, and some other things that might come up. So we just got to play it day by day, really. All right, so let's have a look what Davis put in there. And material sectors, IGO, that looked pretty good. That's definitely one of my faves in that space, so I'm happy with that. I'm just flicking through if there's anything else I can see that I like. That's materials. So then I'm going to go down to probably some of the other stuff, like your consumer staples. And I've got MTS in there. That looks pretty good. That looks definitely very, very well. Then I've got RIC, another one that looks pretty good. And I'll talk about the agri sector in a moment because we had a good announcement to one of our trends that we put on late last week, and that's Elders. And that looks like a gem of a trade now. All right. Already, when you look at it, the buy signals, there's a few of them, which is nice. So definitely have a look at them, see what you like. Like I said, I like the two of them out of there, which is the Medcash and the IGOs. And then the bullish signals as well in there. So again, you can have a look at it. You can see the commodities are still probably going okayish. And if I look at the actual commodities, I'm looking at trading economics for those that like to keep on top of things. I am looking at, for example, we've got oil and gas. It's fairly mixed. It's actually crude is down. So that sector probably going to be a little bit volatile to start the week. Gold, the precious metals, a little bit weaker starting off this week. Moving along, I'm just going to see what's actually coming, what's looking good, what's not looking good. I still got aluminium that's up. I've got palladium and rhodium coming off. That's part of the precious metals group. Iron ore slightly down. I've got molybdenum. Now, the interesting one I want to really talk about is nickel. And of course, we saw nickel last week pretty be very, very volatile, actually. And what LME has done, that's the London Metal Exchange, has actually stopped trading due to the fact that we had an issue with one of the Chinese groups that went short on nickel. And instead, with the Russian-Ukraine war, nickel shot up. They got in trouble. And unfortunately, threw a lot of things out, a lot of contracts out. And they were facing some hefty losses, like about 8 billion. So as a result, it was a short squeeze. Nickel shot up. LME decided to close the exchange for nickel. Otherwise, it could potentially cause a bit of trouble. So that's what at the moment. It is still closed, and I haven't seen any news regarding that. So potentially, if that reopens up, we could see, I mean, depending, of course, what the Chinese group does, because they need to obviously cover those shorts. And I'm not sure how they're going to do that. Possibly some bailouts from the government. I don't know. Maybe sell some stuff. That's why NIC last week was very volatile. But saying that, nickel probably is going to be fairly volatile when it comes back online. I'd say, yeah, we'll see some shenanigans going on, no doubt for me. So nickel is an interesting commodity, but after that huge rise last week, I'm expecting a bit of a pullback and maybe some ups and downs to come this week. That's, of course, depending if they actually return back this week. So gold for me still probably pretty good. And actually, let's put in gold. Let's have a look what gold looks like on the charts. And for me, in a volatile market like this, gold still should be doing okay. And it is at the moment, shot up to about 2070, 80, and now it's come back under the 2000. So it had a nice big week with big selling at the end of the week. However, it's still bullish for me. Nothing's changed there. I know it would be nice if it'd be over $2,000. So start of the week, it's not looking fantastic, but it's still, if you look at the chart right now in front of you, it's still looking pretty good. So that's okay. Like I said, the commodities are still decent. I don't see anything reason in there to be baiting out. Probably we just look at some of your stops and see how things are tracking. And of course, be on top of your trades. That's probably the key here. Don't sit from one week to the next hoping things are just going to go up for you, because things can change rapidly in this space. And like I said, Ukraine, Russia, they could come to talks, there could come some agreement, and things could change very, very quickly with the metals. And again, we might see a lot of volatility in that. So, as a trader, as an investor at the moment, again, I'm sitting on my hands, not doing much this week, the start of the week, just looking at some of these moves up and down, and just following what's going well, what's not going well. And it brings me to the point of looking at, is there any announcements this week? Is the stuff that we maybe traded last week still looking okay? And really the story for me of the day, 100% is Elders. So let me put the chart in. We talked about it last week. We put it as a trade on our system, and it's looking excellent. Today, they've announced that they're going to come up with between 20 and 30% EBIT growth, which is above the analysts' expectations. Brilliant. So obviously we picked that pretty well, right? So pat on the back for us. What do you do if you're not in this? I still think you can get on. I don't think it's too late. So we're going to revise our strategy here for Elders. I know we've put it on, I think, buy below 12.17. So hopefully a lot of you guys have got in, but we're going to revise now and buy under 13. If you can see it go up under 13, I'd be buying that under 13. You've got a company in the first 5 months already updating the FY22 for 20 to 30% growth with a pretty good outlook, to be honest. When you look at that announcement today and you look at the next, say, 7 months, they've done 5 months already, the next 7 months, it still should be very, very strong for them. So I'm expecting that 20 to 30% growth could even, be outperformed by the end of that FY22. So for me, I'm still very, very happy to get in this below 13. So don't be despaired if you haven't got in. Just be patient, get in it, and set, as a trade, fundamentally and technically still looks very, very, very good. And so that's probably the key best bet of the day for me, looking around to see if there's anything else. Now, next one. And I'm looking at some of these announcements. So I'm actually going to go out and have a look at NWE, because I know that one of you guys have asked a question regarding NWE. And they've come out in an announcement talking about a gas discovery in WA. And it's looking pretty good. I'm no expert in the oil and gas stuff, but when you read through that actual announcement, there's a lot of positivity in there, and I'd say it's very technical what you saw in that announcement today from NWE, but from the commentary from the management, And sometimes, of course, they're going to talk about a lot of positive stuff. It definitely seems there's something there. So if you're on this trade, for me, it's still relatively good to be on there. I'd say, if you look at it, if you look at the chart right now of NWE, I'd say have your stop technically under 3, I'd say. So if I'm just putting the actual lines through there, probably about 2.8. I know it's at 4. That's a big drop. But, if there's a discovery there, a decent discovery, which seems to be boxes are being ticked, and there's got to be a lot of boxes ticked in the oil and gas discovery, because there's a lot of little levers that potentially could derail this, right? So, when you look at, there's a lot of technical stuff. So from what I've seen so far in my untrained eye, and like I said, I'm fairly untrained in this, but I have seen plenty of these around, and there's a lot of that stuff that it needs to be understood, I suppose, by the market and still explained. It's still looking okay from my side. So long term, under 2.9, yeah, technically it's a sell. From a short term point of view, maybe you put it on a daily as a trade. So let's have a look at the daily, and I think maybe you're looking at, I think that's pretty much good. I'd actually use the daily, and 3.2 would be my get out clause. It's looking good so far. So that I'm expecting that to hold on at least and keep moving up, I think, especially when the oil and gas is looking quite good. All right. What else have we got? So let's go back to announcements, see if there's anything else that popped out this morning. So let's have a look through. And we've had the NWE, we had the elders. We've had a change in RHR, which is all right. But other than that, really, it's looking pretty quiet this morning. So what we're going to do, we're done with the video pretty much. Hopefully you guys can trade some of these Einsteins. We might see a few more announcements this week. Remember, Elders is actually going to be releasing their half-year reports in another month. But that's the trade that you should be really looking at the moment. It's part of the war stories. Just come out with an upgrade. It's looking really good. If I'm by myself this week, please be gentle on me. And I am by myself this week. We're still going to be doing through the Ask the Analyst on my own. And of course, we're going to have the daily video like we're having today. So thanks very much, guys, for listening. And I speak to you again tomorrow. Cheers.